Hello everyone. This is the last in this session. I hope you are not tired. Our research is towards a trusted social network through blockchain technology. This research is done by Yize Chen, Huanlan Li, and Hao Wang. I'm Huanlan Li, Yize Chen, and Hao Wang are from University of Washington, Seattle, and I was from University of California, Berkeley. As far as I know, this is the first work that combines the blockchain technology with social networks. We hope this combination would help us fight against the rumor or build the trustness on social network. The outline of this presentation is as follows. At first, we will make an introduction about our research, and then we will introduce rumor spreading model, which is mostly based on some previous research. Later, we will develop a blockchain-enabled social network, and based on that design, we will conduct our numerical simulation and try to prove that we have this blockchain-enabled social network will have effects on containing the rumor spreading on the network. And based on those numerical simulation results, we will give our conclusion. First, what is our motivation? This rumor, according to dictionary, is currently circulating story or report of uncertain or doubtful truths. And actually, it has evolved for a long time. Previously, it was through word of mouth, and later it was newspaper. And now, most rumors are on internet or social media. On internet and social media, there might be a bigger problem because the information can propagate faster, and it can cause greater public concern. Our related work are mostly based on two parts. The first part being rumor spreading model. Some previous researchers have tried to use differential equation for modeling rumor spread on social networks. They regard the social network as a graph, and they regard the social network rumor spreading as a graph-based information propagation. And some of them have proposed a system called SIR model, which I will talk about later. Some other researchers also discussed rumor avoidance mechanism. Namely, the rumor avoidance mechanism includes some like convergence analysis of rumor propagation. It also includes investigation, supervision, and sometimes restriction of information. And the next big part is what we are talking today, blockchain technology. I think a lot of other speakers have already talked about this and the application of blockchain technology. A blockchain is a queuing list of blocks, and those blocks contains the record, contains the timestamp, and a blockchain has several features like decentralized network, and it has security. If we observe these two networks, the social network and the blockchain network, we might find there are some similarities between them. But one thing we found out is that on social network, the information is mostly produced one way, where on blockchain network, there's the information is shared by different parties. So we were wondering, like, if we have some contract or like some blocking contract inside the social network, will that add up some like features of blockchain into a social network? Later we will try to prove how this works. Our preliminary is blockchain is rumor spreading model. Rumor spreading model is researched by a lot of people, and we have some assumptions. The first assumption is that we assume a social network as a graph where the users of social network as the vertices on this graph, and the connections between social network users like the X on the graph. And we also assume that a social network have a homogeneously mixed population. Actually, this might not always be true, but for simplicity, we just assume this is homogeneous limit, and for like ease of the simulation. And we also assume that the distribution of number of connection, which is also a degree in this graph, it conforms the Poisson distribution, which is shown here in this equation. And we denote high bar as the average degree of connection. So I think probably this image illustrates this well. So in a social network where most people have an average number of connections shown here, a few people have more than average connection, and a few people have like even bigger connections, and they are mostly celebrities. And there are also some people having less than average number of connections. And here comes SIR model. SIR stands for susceptible, effective, and recovered. So it stands for 3 states for a user inside the rumor propagation. A user might initially be susceptible to a rumor, and then if the user believes in the rumor, they become infected, and then when they disbelieve in that rumor, they will become recovered. And there are also 3 classes of people inside this social network. They are ignorant, which is like susceptible, spreader, which is like infected, and stickler, which is like recovered. And we have and they can convert to each other. Ignorant can convert to spreader and specular. Spreader can convert to specular through 2 processes. One is through recovering, so they are like disbelief through a process of recovery, and they can also become specular through forgetting the rumor. For example, sometimes for a long time, a spreader just forgets the rumor and no longer interested in that, then they become speculative. Here are some probabilities for those different classes of people converting to other classes, where lambda is the probability of ignorant being infected and becoming spreader, and gamma being probability of a spreader being recovered and becoming specular, and delta being probability of a spreader forgetting the rumor and becoming the specular, and eta being an ignorant who is dismissed the rumor and directly becoming a specular. And based on this assumption, we also give some initial values inside this social network, where n is the total number of users and a is the initial spreaders who believe in the rumor. And so here we also have some dynamics. There are densities for ignorant, spreader, and specular, denoted as IT, ST, RT, where T is the time. So at the initial stage where T is 0, we have our I0, S0, and R0. We also have our differential equations shown here. So the first one is the changing speed of the number of ignorance. So the number of ignorance is decreasing. We have here we have a minus sign, and the decreasing speed is proportional to the number of spreaders, which is reasonable because when there are more spreaders, then like there are more ignorance. The ignorance are faster to believe in the rumor, and this is also proportional to these vectors we have discussed before. This is the changing speed of the density of spreader. This is so the spreader can convert from can be converted from ignorant, which is shown in this part, and a spreader can also convert to specular through either by recovery, which is shown here. And we can see this part is different from on this part, because this part is like forgetting. It's not depending on the number of cyclers or spreaders, but the process of recovering is dependent on the number of spreader and stapler. And when we understand this part, this equation is very similar to this equation. It's just the number, it's just the speed of ignorance converting to stapler, spreader converting to stapler, either through recovering or through forgetting. And this is a classic SIR model. And after we discuss the SIR model, let me introduce blockchain-enabled social network. So in this section, we will first describe proposed blockchain-enabled protocol for information exchange, which can be integrated into the social network. And then we will illustrate how such a blockchain-enabled social network could help build a trusted social network as a whole. First, we have two protocols inside our blockchain-enabled social network. They are a private contract, which is signed between the spreader and rumor, and it is signed offline. And we also have a public list, which is updated every time when the maximum credit is changed. It records the list of propagation, and it is also serves as a public ledger for propagation of trusted information. First one is our private contract. We can see here from this is the pseudocode. So we initialize the private contract with an empty list of information. Information here might also be a piece of rumor. We also have an empty list of credits. So every user who has signed this private contract have a record of credit. And when the information transacts, we have our information contracts negotiated or signed. We also have our block link and hash encoded. So to the accumulated credit increase for the receiver, for the so when a person shares an information from another person, or a receiver shares the information from a spreader, contract is signed, and a receiver pays a small credit to the receiver pays a small credit to the spreader, and this is like an investment if you consider this. So if the receiver, the information shared is shared the propagate amount, there are other receivers who will pay this credit to this receiver. So it's like an investment. But if this is a piece of rumor or proved to be untrustworthy, there will be much less other receivers who will continue sharing this information. Then this receiver will suffer a loss. And now here's our public list. A public list is will have blockchain list and maximum credit updates available inside this public list. And whenever user signs a private contract, they will update this public list. And how does this go into the bigger picture? We have this architecture design, which has 4 layers, namely the operation layer, contract layer, data layer, and information source layer. The first two are operation layer and contract layer. The operation layer integrates real-time trend analysis, and the contract layer is a decentralized blockchain information transaction. So this first layer are closely related to the design of our blockchain contract. And there are two lower layers, information layer, which is interfaces to internet or other networks. It also links to news networks. And we also have data layer, which is like either photo sharing or news aggregator, the information fusion and communication. So how would this change the SIR model? Here we propose a blockchain-enabled SIR model here in comparison to previously mentioned SIR model, the traditional one. Here we have different kinds of ignorance. Some have signed the blockchain contract. They are named as blockchain ignorant, and others are named as normal ignorant. So blockchain, the people who have signed the blockchain contract have a kind of different behavior than those who have never signed the blockchain contract. And then they will have a different possibility of either converting to spreader or converting to stakeholder compared with those who have never signed the contract. And under the blockchain model, we have our differential equation. So here it's still very similar to our previous equation, but we have two classes of ignorance, where we have normal ignorance and blockchain ignorance. And the spreader can either convert from normal ignorant or blockchain ignorant. And spreader also can convert from either of these classes. So this is still very similar to our previous model, but we just classify the ignorance. And here, let's discuss how the behavior of normal ignorance and blockchain ignorance differs. Rumor spreading rate is different because once the individual has signed that trust contract under the blockchain protocol, they will have extra reports coming from the blockchain. They will have a transaction list of information within the whole network. This mechanism gives the additional estimate of how valuable the information shared. So this can make so the blockchain ignorant or anyone who has signed the blockchain can have a better estimation of how accurate their information is. And in general, once the private contract between two individuals has reached a higher value of virtual credit, members of blockchain ignorance are more cautious of the ongoing information exchange, and then they are less vulnerable when exposed to a piece of rumor. So we derive our lambda here and in here. The people who have signed the blockchain have signed the blockchain contract have less possibility of converting to spreader and a higher possibility of converting to stakeholder. We also take forgetting mechanism into consideration. So if a blockchain ignorant who have unfortunately believed in that false information, will that be the same spreader as the spreader who have never signed the contract? Actually, it will be not, because when there is a public report of the information shared, and when they are more cautious of this public information, they might be more cautious and more likely to forget this information. So the rate at which an infected forgets a rumor tends to be higher. And based on our designed blockchain-enabled social network, we then conduct our numerical simulations. Firstly, we will give our comparison between blockchain-enabled social network versus normal social network. We have our initializations before, and we also have dynamics here. So here we observe several data here. The peak of number of threaders, we can see from here that this one is blockchain-enabled social network. We can see that the peak is much less than this one where people never sign a blockchain contract. We also find that the lifespan of rumor also is much less than on the social network with blockchain. Here, the rumor exists only for 10 days, where here rumor exists for more than 100 days. And we also investigate how spreader density and stakeholder density changes under different epsilon, where epsilon being the ratio of people who have signed the blockchain versus people who have never signed the blockchain. Here we also compare the how dense the social network is. When K is 10, this means average people have like 10 connections. This social network is sparse, where when K is 50, the social network is denser. And we will find that rumor propagates faster when the network is dense. Like this, we can see the peak value was reached much faster. And we can also see that with different epsilon within the same graph, when the epsilon is bigger, the peak is reached later, and we also see that the peak is also lower. And if we take a slice of rumor spread, we take the slice at the end of day 2. We will investigate how delta, which is the forgetting possibility of a spreader, and epsilon help change the number of spreader and number of stifler. We will find from here that we can compare the case when epsilon is 0 and epsilon is infinity. We will find that when epsilon is 0, the number of spreader is much larger than the number is much larger. And when epsilon is 0, we will also find the number of stapler is much larger. This means that when epsilon is 0, there are a lot of spreaders and a lot of staplers at the end of day 2, which means that the rumor spreads much faster when there's no people signing the blockchain. And here is our conclusion. Based on our simulation, we have these conclusions. In this work, we formulated epidemiological model for trusted social networks. We also proposed an architecture design for blockchain-enabled social networks. And then we conducted numerical simulations that validated the model design. We also need some future work. One is the incentive design for heterogeneous users, which is more similar to our current social networks. And we also need some probably real tests on social networks. And that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
It seemed you made an assumption that someone who could sign the blockchain contract could be a provocateur and mess with your system easily.
Actually, we do not believe so. Firstly, when some people sign the blockchain contract, what is the benefit of signing the blockchain contract while spreading rumor? Actually, we have not found the benefit of doing so.
Oh, but there are people who do that. This is the whole problem with Twitter and Facebook with respect to the last election.
Okay, let me think of this problem. So if a person who has signed the blockchain contract and then they spread a rumor, right? And then when this piece of information was proved to be wrong, then it's like they do not have any return from spreading this rumor because
maybe they don't care.
Actually, it's true that maybe some people do not care, but we assume that most users on social network who have signed this blockchain contract cares about it.
Well, I think it's.
Maybe
you have part of your model that's missing.
And how would you incentivize people to join it?
I think this is a very interesting question because how do we just assume there are part people who have signed this blockchain contract, but we have never researched how to incentivize them. And I think the first one is to because this means more responsible for being a more responsible social network user. So I think those who feel that they are take this responsibility might sign this social network contract. And we do not need everyone to sign this contract. We can see that when there's a small change in the number of the social contract users, there might be some change in the whole rumor propagation process.
But there's extreme polarization, not just regionally and nationally, but internationally.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but like this is polarization. May I know your point here? Will this polarization reduce the number who have signed the blockchain, or how will that affect our system?
I just think there's a lot of constituents that would, not be incentivized to join.
Yeah. I think that's true. There will be like some people who are reluctant to join, but our assumption is that there will be some people who join this, and they can somehow change how this rumor spread on social networks.
So I had two questions. The first one is regarding your model. You seem to be assuming that the stifler is the sink. Is it possible for a stifler to become an ignorant or a spreader? Again, that's the first question. The second question is, if the model was changed, is the problem still tractable?
Okay, let me answer your first question. I think so. When we are investigating it's like one rumor spreading process. So a stifler might believe in another rumor, but I don't think the stifler will like believe in the same rumor again.
They can't change their mind.
Yeah, but like if this changes, this probably I think this relates to a rumor. I think a rumor is a piece of unverified. So if you verify that and then you change it, then probably this is just an opening rather than a rumor. So we are more like to investigating the rumor that can be determined. And if the people like always they change their mind on something, this might not be a rumor.
And if the edges were added, is the problem still tractable? Can you still quantify the numbers that you presented?
So you mean not rumor, rather than rumor, we tracked some like controversial topics?
No, if I added the edges where the stifler can become a spreader or an ignorant,
that
can I
will be
still
very
compute the
interesting.
results?
Actually, we haven't done the test, and I'm eager to do some tests to see how this works. But I think it might also depend on in which condition this stifler will change to. The stifler will change into a ignorant. Will that be relevant to the number of spreaders, or will that be number relevant to like some other factors? I think it's yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right, this concludes the session. I believe there is no break, correct?
We're going to take a real quick 5-minute break just to let anyone have any bio